Business and Financial Raw Talk, a no-holds-barred forum for leaders and innovators with award-winning business strategist and financial analyst LaWanna Bradford with the Bradford Group. With Raw Talk, we are empowering women to rise and succeed in business and finances, and improve the world for the next generation. Get ready to get raw and real. Live each Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern on e360tv.com.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of Business and Financial Raw Talk. As you all know, I love everything that has to do with business and finances, and I want to say a special thank you to our audience on E360 TV, as well as those of you who are following us on social media, as well as Roku, Apple TV, and Samsung TV. And today we have a very special guest joining us, Christine Cipriano, who will be talking about insurance, but not just insurance as you're typically thinking about insurance, but how we can leverage our financial position. Remember a key piece as it relates to insurance and how it can position us when life happens. And this is targeted especially to those who are self-employed, our entrepreneurs who are out there. Yesterday was Women's Entrepreneur Day. And what was so exciting is that day was celebrated by 144 nations, 66 universities, talking about access, diversity, inclusion, equity, financial positioning, creating sustainable communities, and creating legacy for our families. And in order to do that, we have to understand the whole component of our finances, everything that has to do with our finances. And here in the US and in other countries, we know the pandemic had us reeling. We saw deaths like never before. And those who are in the entrepreneurial ranks were some very much crippled with what do we do? How do we prepare for the unexpected? How do we address what the unexpected? Here in the US, and I'm certain around the world, there were GoFundMe accounts. One of my friends, she talked about in certain communities, they have fish fries to raise money in order to give final burial to their loved ones. And that's a little sad, but that's the reality that we live with. So I'm going to get out of the way of greatness, and I'm going to bring Christine to the stage. How's it going, Christine?
Awesome, LaWanna. Thank you so much for this opportunity to talk a little bit about insurance and share what we're doing here in this space.
Yes, thank you. I know you've been busy. You just came back from a major cruise.
Yes.
How was that?
Oh my goodness, that was so awesome. You know, everybody has a bucket list. That was one of our spaces on the bucket list was Santorini. So we did a European cruise, 8 nights, 9 days, Greece, Italy, Spain, and France. Awesome. Highly recommend it.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I want you to tell the audience a little bit about you. I know that, and I like to kind of call you a wealth strategist, because when you understand insurance and how it fits into the financial equation, there's a strategy to that. Mm-hmm. How did you come into the insurance arena, and why are you so passionate about individuals understanding how they can leverage it?
Sure. Thanks for asking. I don't want to go too far back, but I will stipulate that and share. I have a 20-year career in the financial space in IT. I did that when I was younger. I had gotten laid off back in 2006, but a majority of what I did in that space was in the financial space, right? So when I moved after that, I have always been a huge sports advocate and health and wellness advocate. From after I left Wall Street, I became a massage therapist, and it was a passion of mine. And it was wonderful to heal people from their current ailments that they had. Fast forward 2009, I met my wife and I became a nurse. We needed to have some medical benefits, so it was important for us to have some stability in that space. And it was easy for me to transition. So I became a nurse. And again, I'm now healing people with issues that they currently have, right? And educating them as we go along to how to help themselves move forward and try to learn how to best treat their current ailments. Fast forward um, in 2000 and what is this 2020, I found myself presented with something that was still helping people, but in a preventive care manner in the financial space. And because it was still dealing with medical issues, it was a marriage made in heaven for me. And now, right now, I'm helping people in our insurance space, in our revolutionary insurance space, where people are preparing themselves in the event and when they do become ill, how to best um, position themselves financially so they don't have to do what you shared before, a GoFundMe.
I love your story. And isn't it interesting how the bookends connect,
Yeah,
right?
full circle, right?
Yes. And it's one of the things that I found, Christine, is women don't like to talk about finances. We'll talk about everything else. But when it comes to understanding the different components of finance and how we can put those pieces together to better our lives, prepare for our future, we don't want to have those conversations. And I'm wondering, when you were talking to individuals, especially those in the entrepreneur space, about insurance, do you find them leaning in more, or what are you running into out there?
Yeah, thanks for asking that question, because that's a biggie in our demographic and across the board as well, especially even for young people, because we're not taught financial education, right? We're at a deficit from the beginning. And now when women are now coming into the entrepreneurial space and open up their businesses, they don't have that background and they're not making those wise decisions. So one of the things that we're doing outside of just insurance is teaching people how to create wealth and then how to invest it best for insurance wise and other retirement, et cetera.
I love that. So you have the insurance as far as life insurance,
Mhm.
and we'll get into what living benefits means. But now you're teaching wealth building strategies.
Yes. Mhm.
That's fantastic. And I think because of your background, it adds more credibility, right?
Yeah,
To the
absolutely.
service.
Especially from people understanding, once you say that, oh, Christine's a nurse, so Christine already has that credibility, understanding the medical aspect and the catastrophes that are associated with it financially when people aren't prepared.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things that we know, there's the big conversation around healthcare, particularly here in the United States, is as far as dealing with access.
Hmm.
And I think once people become more aware, then they're able to navigate the healthcare waters in order to determine where they best fit and to get the best care possible. But there are times when we are self-employed, life happens, then what do we do? Well, because we can't pay for our insurance that we did have because we're sick, and maybe we were the only income source for our
Hmm.
household. Can you talk to me a little bit about this living benefits? Because I hear that a lot, but I'm certain people are kind of scratching their head and wondering, what actually is it? Isn't insurance just insurance?
Oh my goodness. Thank you. Thank you for asking that question, because my God, that's the root of the root that we're talking about today. And it's probably the scariest thing that most people don't think about at all. What happens if? What happens? And as you said, you could be corporate employed, have you're a W-2 earner, or you can be an entrepreneur. And what happens if heart attack, stroke, cancer happens and you don't die? Where do you get the money to support yourself, pay your mortgage, pay your bills, pay your college, private college fees, etc., or schooling for the kids, food? Your medical insurance doesn't pay for that. So most people have to go to their retirement, or in most cases, possibly sell their home. We know that to throw out a figure or two, 65% of bankruptcies are due to medical crisis and 40% of foreclosures for the same reason. So it's scary when people aren't prepared, but the mentality is, it's not going to happen to me. And that's probably the scariest thing to position yourself in thinking that way. So we need a mindset shift for awareness. And that's what the living benefits provide. So the peace of mind it does bring is, God forbid you do get sick. And there's a variety of qualifying events within the living benefits that we provide. That even if you should get hit by a car and you're in a coma, obviously you're not working, you're losing an income. So now you don't have to worry about your spouse trying to fight that financial crisis, because the medical living benefits gives you accelerated access to income tax-free when you need it most.
Wow. Let's talk about that. You just said accelerated, which is good, because in an emergency, I want it now, I need it now. But you also said tax-free.
Yes.
So
tax-free. So sometimes when people hear tax-free, they think, oh, come on, that's not true. How could that possibly be? How could the government give something away tax-free? Well, I just want to sidetrack that by saying 401ks, 403bs are tax codes, right? We all know them as retirement vehicles, but the public doesn't know that they're tax codes. Well, the insurance piece is also a tax code. And underneath that umbrella, the IRS blesses insurance as a tax-free environment.
That's really good to know. Now, with this living benefits, so and I want to walk through a scenario. So let's say an individual finds out they have this unfortunate medical crisis, they're unable to work, and you said it's accelerated. Give me a time frame, because sometimes we hear accelerated and it's 90 days before we get results.
So now we're going to say, depending on the insured, the timing, the medical diagnosis, right? Because that has to go through a review from the medical doctor and the underwriting company within the insurance company. So let's say somebody has a $500,000 policy, right? And now female, 45, really doesn't matter, has a heart attack and not that they just can't work, but the fact that they had a heart attack, that's a differentiating factor too. The underwriting department looks at the various diagnosis and the medical response to the diagnosis and what the chances are for that person to survive and what their status is, what stage are they at. And depending on the insurance company, with ours, there's different stages that you can receive certain amount of accelerated benefits, right? Income. And once that's determined, somebody with a heart attack can access up to 70% of their $500,000 policy, tax-free, lump sum, check written out to them. So it doesn't have to go to any other facility outside of the insured or the owner.
So what I understand you saying is, it depends on the medical condition, the underwriter, and how it's been presented by the medical provider.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, with you and in your business, do you guide your clients through that if they do have an issue, or are they to contact their medical provider and or the insurance provider directly?
If the insured has a situation and we're contacted by them or their spouse, then we can put in a claim. And
Okay.
then the claim starts that whole process with the insurance company.
Okay.
And we can guide them along as well.
Now, is this, I'm trying to think because I'm not in your lane, but is this considered whole life or universal, or
Mhm.
what type of insurance is it?
Yeah, sure. So there's two different types of insurance that we can provide. It is in the permanent life insurance space. We do provide an independent, an index universal life policy, an IUL. You might heard that term,
Mhm.
and also term policies. And the wonderful thing about our coverage is that both of those types of vehicles provide the living benefits coverage. That's
Oh,
huge, right? Because typically term is just death and that's it. You
right.
don't. So now you have an added layer of peace of mind with the living benefits. Mhm.
Yeah, that, because that's what I was thinking. I was thinking it was either universal or whole, but you notice I didn't mention term because I didn't think that was even a qualifier. So that's
Yeah, yeah.
good to know. So if someone wants to learn more or even determine if they qualify, is this the type of insurance where you have to have the medical exam? What's the process?
Yes, typically we don't have a need to go through the medical process where the blood is taken, the urine is taken, etc., unless there's some underlying medical issues that we know would require it. But usually we wait until the insurance underwriters let us know. And in some cases, if you're healthy, um, you can get an automatic approval, with a short time. And we're able to write the policy there and then and submit the application for underwriting to review. Yeah.
So you mentioned if you're healthy. So let's talk about all of these. And this is going to be very interesting. I'm just curious to see what insurance overall is going to do, especially with COVID. And we know long COVID, right?
Hmm.
We have no idea what this pandemic is going to result in as far as long-term health. I don't want to ask this. What do individuals do in that instance where, and maybe let me ask it directly.
Hmm.
Is COVID considered an underlying condition? Because there's so much we don't know as far as long-term effects.
Hmm. Now that's an excellent question. Thank you for asking that one, right? That's like the elephant in the room. So back in 2020, when COVID happened, our company was one of the first to say, we have COVID covered, meaning that if you have a not an underlining, but let's say you have a heart attack because you had COVID, that would be considered something that would be covered, right?
Okay.
Not so much COVID, but any not even specific, any other medical underlying issue that would be as a result of COVID could be considered reviewable, right? And to move forward, which is very exciting because we did a lot of business in COVID in 2020 because of that, right? Because not many insurance companies were covering that situation.
Yeah, that's definitely reassuring because, and I know that's got to be a major conversation that's still on the table.
Yeah.
What do we do? I have a girlfriend who had unfortunate had COVID, had no underlying conditions, but post COVID now she's a full blown diabetic.
Mm, right. So that could now she's probably uninsurable because
Mhm.
of the diabetes. if she
Right.
didn't have insurance before. So yeah, that brings in a conversation that we could extend on that if you'd like.
Yeah.
Um, One of the other things that's available within our company is something called Survivor IUL. So for somebody who already has a condition that is not insurable, we could potentially put them on a policy. Let's say you're uninsurable, but I'm not. I am. And we could have a policy put together with the both of us on it. And there's opportunity for the death benefit, the living benefits to happen. There's criteria that is set in the event that the first one dies, the benefits can be applied for, et cetera. And there's circumstances, right? It's not just the general, but it's a conversation to have with people who are in a space where they already know that they're uninsurable, or they may have children that are uninsurable. I say that within the autistic range, or even possibly in the mental health range, which is something that is being looked at. But yeah, it's not to say, oh, I have this and I can't get any more. That's not the case.
Well, that's good to know, and I hope our listening audience. We are here with Christine Cipriano, and we are talking about financial leverage and insurance. And I hope you all heard it's important to have that conversation because
Mhm.
you don't know what you don't know, and there are multi layers to this, right? Your individual circumstance, what your policy may cover if you have these policies, or what you may qualify for. And that's why it's so important to have the right experts on your team to guide you in navigating these waters, because there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of questions out
Mhm.
there, and people are very fearful. It's like, what happens to me, right?
Mhm. Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting that demographics also have a different mindset as well as out there, and we're educating people that it's okay, and they have that mindset because it's just culturally based over the centuries, and now we're bringing them into a new environment and understanding that it's available to you, and here's why you might want to consider it, and it's not only because of death any longer.
Now, with the living benefits, so
Mhm.
let's say you set the $500,000 policy and you get, I believe you said like up to 75% of that. Now, if I draw down and then something happens to me, there's no longer death coverage, right?
Well, depending on the type of policy that it is, right? So term doesn't have any cash value in it, right? So it's just strictly the death benefit or the living benefits, right? You can have options where if you have a situation, instead of taking the full benefit of the claim, you can take half of it and still have a death benefit left on that policy, right? For the permanent life insurance, there's a variety of ways that we can review that, right? So again, you can take a lump sum, you can take, and once the lump sum is taken, the policy is done, right? So if you have 50% of that, you still have your death benefit, and then it goes on. So you still have some kind of peace of mind for you moving forward.
And that's something that you could help guide and educate your clients on, like to make the best decision, not necessarily be drastic and pull everything out, but determine what future needs may be.
Well, so we're not financial advisors, let's put it out, and
Okay.
financial planners, right? But we can educate them on how the policy works and how to best utilize the proceeds, right? So if you're going to receive a claim, well, what's in your best interest? Do you want to take it out all now and not have a policy anymore and you're 65? Or do you want to take half of it and still have a death benefit with the living benefits that remain as you get up in age?
Okay.
That's
So,
scary.
yeah,
Shooting up in age.
I hope our audience heard that. So,
Very.
Christine and the company, they're not financial advisors.
Mhm.
They're providing insurance service, which is, again, a financial service. And that's why it's so important to have your team,
Mhm.
right?
Absolutely. Yep. Thank you.
Yes, that's great. We're going to take a little break and we will be back in just a moment.
Thank you.
We are back with our discussion on financial leverage and insurance with Christine Cipriano. I want to just pronounce it the Italian way, and so I'm like, it's the hybrid. I apologize.
It sounds better either way. It's fine.
Christine, let's get to the second part of this,
Mhm.
which I think is real important, and I love that you are creating this level of awareness. Is the discussion about generating wealth
Mhm.
and what that means and how this plays a part in that equation. Can you walk us through that? And if you were talking to that woman entrepreneur
Mhm.
who that it's just her income, so it's her business is the only thing that's generating income for her household. I'd like you to speak to her specifically and what things she may need to consider as she's building wealth for herself and possibly her children.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for asking. So, the first thing that I would suggest is to do a review of where she's currently allocating monies that she's earning and to what vehicles. Is it a retirement vehicle? Does she have life insurance? Is she paying for disability? She's paying for medical insurance. Does she have living benefits within her policy? And then we can discuss, what are you getting for those contributions and how much is it really costing you? Right. So when we look at what we are offering in our policy, the opportunity to combine all of those life challenges that you're paying for individually becomes available in one space for one premium for all the benefits. So now you have peace of mind with life insurance, death benefit, retirement focus. You have accelerated benefits with the living benefits, and you also, God forbid, you have chronic or disability issues. That is all available to you for the one price, as opposed to individual contributions for individual things that you need. That's huge.
Yeah, I like that. So it's basically a bundle, right?
Yes.
Based upon what that individual will need. You mentioned disability.
Hmm.
Can a person have disability insurance if they're self-employed?
Can I, you know what? That is a conversation that's a little bit out of my wheelhouse. I don't know. I can find out, and we can share with the audience. But at this point, I don't want to share and expand a little bit more.
Sure. No, no, I appreciate that. Because I was having a conversation with my brother, and I have always had both short and long-term disability on myself.
Hmm.
And he's of the mindset, I'm going to stay young and healthy forever. And he may, because we're blessed with my dad's 92, mom's 86, so we have longevity. But it concerns me that he's not insulating himself, right? If
Hmm.
we, because he thinks, like you said, it's not going to happen to me. I'm good.
Right? And you're talking disability, right? And people think um, physical disability, mental disability, whatever it may be. But let's talk about walking across the street, getting hit by a car, and now you have a disability where maybe you lost a leg, maybe something catastrophic happened that was unexpected. You didn't know when it was going to happen. And now you're forced to face those financial issues that come with it, with loss of income or potential in not going back to work potentially, or never going back into a physical space but are forced to do something maybe virtually. Now how do we help people in that respect, which we can obviously, but How does the insurance company with the accelerated benefits play into that is how they provide coverage for chronic issues where you cannot do 2 out of the 6 activities of daily living. So they might be feeding yourself, dressing yourself, taking, dressing yourself, mobility, transference, etc. So that plays a big part because if you can show, and the doctors know and have provided underwriters that for the past 90 days you couldn't do those 2, then they could also provide up to 2% of the face value for 4 years and 2 months. So this way you don't have to worry about those that medical catastrophe and the financial burdens as you're going through healing.
Yeah, and it's big, and I like that you gave that example because it's one thing when we're in the hospital, it's another thing when we go to rehab.
Right.
But then when we get home, there may be extended type of care that we need, as you said, whether it's transport, mobility, bathing, we just don't know. And so being able to have a vehicle that we can tap into that too, because that can be pretty costly if you're coming straight out of pocket.
Oh my goodness. And if anybody out in your audience knows anything about caregiving cost, it can be astronomical on a daily basis. And then you look at it monthly basis, and now you're taking money out of your retirement and you're left with nothing and having to start over. That's a scary, I've heard too many situations like that, and it's very scary, especially as we get as we get older and are not as marketable as we used to be and have been away. Then what do you do? It's nice to be in an empowered space when you know what's available to you as an option.
Yes. I have one question. So the living benefits, they don't diminish if you live longer, do they? Some insurance policies, the longer you live, the value starts to decrease.
No, not at all. So if you have a 500, and I'm using the example 500,000. It could be 200, could be 100,000, whatever you have, whatever you design the policy for yourself. So we'll use the 500. That's longevity, right? So for the policy, our policies go out 120 years, right? So you have access to your living benefits throughout your lifetime in that permanent insurance. And that's it. You have access to it. You have that peace of mind knowing that it is there.
So you're able to, once you pull it out, you can put it back in, right?
That you cannot do, right? So if you take out a loan from your policy, which you can do if you have cash in there, you can pay it back. You don't have to pay it back, but the face value will be reduced, right? So then your living benefits would be reduced as well, right? So it's not that you can pay back into it. However, if let's say you recover and now you're fortunate enough to make more money and you want to fund your policy more, now the policy can increase in cash value. And now you have access to cash along with the remaining death benefit if the living benefits weren't used in 100%. If that makes sense. Yes.
Yeah, it does. So from a wealth standpoint, can annuities be built in it where at a certain period upon retirement, let's say age 65, then I can get a percentage of that for my income? Or is that different?
Two different things. So annuities, we're talking qualified plans. In insurance, we're talking IULs, non-qualified.
Okay.
Can't mix apples and oranges.
Okay. Good to know. I'm willing to throw everything in and see what's.
We do provide that coverage as well. So, and we do it in the fixed annuity space.
Okay. So you can guide and you can provide that service if someone is interested.
Yes. Especially if they have old 401ks, 403bs. or they're leaving their job and now they don't know what to do with that 401k money, that qualified plan, then we can show them options in the fixed indexed annuity space. Yep.
Okay, that's good.
Very
Good
powerful.
to know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we are almost out of time, and I want to turn the platform over to you, Christine, so that you can address the audience. I'll make sure that as you're talking, your contact information is scrolling below. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much. Okay, so thank you very much again, LaWanna, for this time. I would suggest to the audience, please reach out to me if you'd like to have a conversation, find out what your options are. Most people don't know that you have access to cash when serious medical crisis happens, and we certainly don't know when those crises will happen, right? Unexpected doesn't have a due date. So I encourage you to call me, contact me. My phone and my email are scrolling for a review. No obligation, just education to understand what is available for you and your family. Right now, we also insure as young as 14 days old. So that's a great opportunity for families, new parents, to have a financial reserve for their children and create generational wealth by utilizing the tool that we have here. It can be very powerful, very, very life-saving, and also bring peace of mind to families. One of the other areas that we can help is the small business owners, right? Coming in 2023, for those of you who don't know, there will be a government mandate that small business owners with 5 employees or more have to have some kind of retirement plan in place for their employees. Well, what does that look like? Currently, most people know about 401ks, 403bs. Well, there's other options that are tax-free and can offer living benefits, right? In addition to what other items that I had discussed with LaWanna today. So for those people as well who are transitioning, maybe out of work, looking for extra income, looking to make an impact into the community, educators, nurses, CPAs who want to help their clients and patients to have a better lifestyle, to take care of themselves, bringing peace of mind through planning and preventive care financially. That is something that we can have a discussion as well, and how you can be an influencer in your community as well to help people learn about living benefits and how we're doing that across the country. We're looking for advocates to expand our crusade, and we hope that if this is something that suits you or you would like to learn more about, kindly give me a call. I'd love to chat with you and see how we can best fit and meet your goals for 2023 and beyond. Thank you so much.
I love that. So not only are you providing this amazing service and awareness and education, but if someone is interested in getting in this industry, they can have a conversation with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're looking for advocates. We do the training as well. So, because insurance is in the Department of Banking and Insurance, it's highly regulated. So you need a license. We help people with the licensing as well, training. And then we move forward. Yep.
That sounds great. And I think it's important, again, when we're talking about wealth strategies, and that's an example of having multiple streams of income. And as you said, if you have first of all, if you have an interest, that's one. But if you're in an area that it's a complement,
absolutely,
why not, right? And
yeah.
at least have a conversation and find out what's out there.
It doesn't hurt to have conversation. It's all about education, no obligation, right? People need to know that they have options across the country. It's not only, and it doesn't matter who you are, where you are, how old you are, 18 and up, obviously, but there are options. You can have a lucrative career as well. There's opportunity that is knocking on people's doors. You just have to be in the mindset to open and listen, and then make your decisions, based on what you hear.
So as you said, you're looking for advocates to be out there on this crusade. Are they independent? Is that how they operate, or are they part of a team? So you have support. How does that work?
So they are independent, right? 1099, commission based. Definitely lots of support and mentorship and leadership within our structure and our system, which is the foundation of how people move forward. Because when you're in an industry that is unknown to you, and you don't want to be in there getting a license and then floundering without some kind of guidance. And we excel in that space. So people who come in have to know that we will take care of them and walk them through and be by their side throughout their journey here.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Christine, this has been an amazing time, wealth of information. I learned some things, so I appreciate that. To our listening audience, this is the time, if you're wondering where you stand financially, or you're looking to elevate your game with the knowledge, with the tools in order to create the sustainability that you need today and the assurance for tomorrow, I encourage you, please reach out to Christine Cipriano. Her contact information is below, cfwealthstrategies@gmail.com or 917-838-7080. Again, you can get awareness, you can get the tools, meaning the insurance platforms that you may need, or this is a game changer. If you're looking for that second or third or fourth income stream, because Warren Buffett says you should have 7, then you want to give her a call. And again, knowledge is power, but it's actually applied knowledge that's power.
Yes.
So I encourage you to reach out to this brilliant mind, to her team, to see how she can help benefit you and how you can take charge of your own financial future and create the life and the peace of mind that you want for yourself and your family. Right, Christine?
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And to our listening audience, we encourage you to stay tuned for our next episode of Business and Financial Raw Talk, a no-holds-barred forum for leaders and innovators, which comes at you every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And just remember that in life and in business, when your vision intersects with opportunity, success is inevitable. And ladies and gentlemen, you just heard an opportunity today. So please reach out to Christine. Until next time, be blessed, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye. God bless.